Okay, so previously we discussed about section 202 to 213, I think, this one. But the other provisions you just read, of course, you have to understand section 214, section 215, and section 214 is all about redemption of property sold. You have 1 year from the date of sale. Also have this forfeiture to government for one of bidder and resale of real estate taken for taxes and further restraint or levy. You must remember, or yeah, you should remember that these can be availed of simultaneously, including the filing of collection suit. So the BIR has the right to collect the tax and avail of the remedy simultaneously. But I want to discuss more extensively on this one, Section 218. Injunction not available to restrain collection of tax. No court shall have the authority to grant an injunction to restrain the collection of any national internal revenue tax. You take note of this phrase here because in the local government code, there is no provision like this. So you can file an injunction suit against a local government unit if the LGU tries to collect a tax. Of course, you must have the grounds, but there is no prohibition with regard to local government taxes. You can file an injunction suit. But the case, there is in these national internal revenue taxes, there is only one exception, and that is the Court of Tax Appeals. We have this case, the Angeles City versus Angeles City Electric Cooperative, as early as June 29, 2010. Supreme Court ruled on that matter. Okay? If, in the opinion of the CTA, the collection thereof may jeopardize the interest of the government and or the taxpayer, then it can suspend the effect of injunction. But, okay, whenever you read the section 218, you have to cross-read that with the last paragraph of section 11 of RA 1125, as amended by, of course, the two law for the CTA, and the latest one is RA 9282. So this is the section 11. Okay, there's a case, a fairly recent one, last year, spouses Pacquiao. This is the provision that was uh, argued on this one. Well, you take notice of this Court of Appeals, which was the old law. Remember that before you go into the Supreme Court, you have to pass through the Court of Appeals. But right now, they're equal. So from CTA, go to the Supreme Court. We'll discuss it later, but this is the provision that was discussed in Spouses Pacquiao. So you remember this, when in the opinion of the court, the collection by the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the Commissioner of Customs may jeopardize the interest of the government and or the taxpayer, the court at any stage of the proceeding may suspend the said collection and require the taxpayer either to deposit the amount claimed or to file a surety bond for not more than double the amount with the court. Okay. In the case of Pacquiao, this one, Spouses Pacquiao versus CTA, it was decided April 6, 2016. You remember Senator Pacquiao's tax liability. It reached 1 billion, I think, more than a billion. And, well, maybe that includes the penalties, the interest, and everything. But there was no dispute already that he has a tax liability, or the spouses Pacquiao have tax liability. What the point of contention was the method of collection, the manner of collecting the tax. So they found this provision, Section 11 of RA 1125. Because if I remember it right, spouses or Pacquiao, Senator Pacquiao said, well, I never received the notice on the levy or the restraint or whatever. You just gave it to my wife, and I should have received that also. You just violated your own rule. The court said, okay, so they discussed that. The basic is appeal will not suspend the collection of tax. Exception is under Section 11 of RA 1125 as amended by RA 9282. Okay. Spouses Pacquiao said, we invoke Section 11 of RA 1125 as amended because we are not required to file a bond or to post a bond. And because you just violated your own rule, VIR. So the VIR said, no, you have to post a bond because it's clear under Section 11 of the law that you just cited. The Supreme Court ruled on that issue, and it said posting a bond for injunction is not an absolute requirement. Okay? At first blush, it might be as contended by the Solicitor General, but careful analysis of the second paragraph of said Section 11 will lead us to the conclusion that the requirement of the bond as a condition precedent to the issuance of writ of injunction applies only in cases where the processes by which the collection sought to be made by means thereof are carried out in consonance with law. For such cases provided, and not when said processes are obviously in violation of the law to the extreme that they have to be suspended for jeopardizing the interests of the taxpayer. The court went on to explain the reason for empowering the courts to issue such injunctive writs. Section 11, therefore, is premised on the assumption that the collection by summary proceedings is by itself in accordance with existing laws. Okay? And that what is suspended is the act of collecting, whereas in the case at bar, what the respondent court suspended was the use of the method employed to verify the collection, which was evidently illegal after the lapse of the 3-year limitation period. The respondent court issued the injunction in question on the basis of its findings that the means intended to be used by the petitioner in the collection of the alleged efficiency taxes were in violation of law. Okay, it would certainly be an absurdity on the part of the CTA to declare that the collection by the summary methods of distraint and levy was violative of the law, and then, the same breath, require the petitioner to deposit or file a bond as a prerequisite of the issuance of a writ of injunction. So, the Supreme Court said, okay, let us suppose, for the sake of argument, okay, the court would have required the petitioner to post the bond in question and that the taxpayer would refuse or fail to furnish said bond. Would the court be obliged to authorize or allow the collector of internal revenue to proceed with the collection from the petitioner of the taxes due by a means it previously declared to be contrary to law? So there's the absurdity there. In Spouses Pacquiao, apparently on the face of Section 11, bond is required for the court to suspend if it will jeopardize the interest of the government. So, or the taxpayer. But the High Court said the posting of the bond can be dispensed with if the method employed by the BIR or the customs is violative of the law. So, this is the rationale here. The example here is that, okay, how about if the taxpayer refuse or fail to furnish a bond? Would the CTA now allow the illegal or unlawful method employed by the BIR? That is the absurdity there. And the Supreme Court went on to say that despite the amendments, the court still holds that the CTA has ample authority to issue injunctive writs to restrain the collection of tax and to even dispense with the deposit of the amount claimed or the filing of the required bond, whenever the method employed by the CIR in the collection of tax jeopardizes the interest of the taxpayer for being patently in violation of the law. Such authority emanates from the jurisdiction conferred to it not only by Section 11 but also under Section 7. The Supreme Court cited this for other matters arising under the National Internal Revenue or other laws administered by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So, well, there is also the prescription issue there, but the Supreme Court said it is not simply confined to cases where prescription is set in. Okay? Whenever it is determined by the courts that the method employed by the collector of internal revenue in the collection of tax is not sanctioned by law, the bond requirement under Section 11 of RA 1125 should be dispensed with. Okay? The purpose of the rule is not only to prevent jeopardizing the interest of the taxpayer, but more importantly, to prevent the absurd situation wherein the court would declare, okay, that the collection by the summary methods of restraint and levy was violative of the law, and then, in the same breath, require the petitioner to deposit or file a bond as a prerequisite for the issuance of a writ of injunction. So that's the import of spouses Pacquiao. And, well, if I am the examiner, I would give this a question or a problem, maybe, a case problem. This was decided last year only, and this was not included in the question, in the previous bar question. So it might be given, it might not be given, but you must understand the import of section 218 in conjunction with the last paragraph of section 11 of RA 1125 as amended. So I repeat, injunction is not available for the to restrain collection of tax only for internal revenue taxes. Okay? Exception when the CTA says so under section 11 of RA 1125. But the requirement for the posting of bond is not absolute, because when the BIR employed a method which is unlawful, the court should not require the posting of the bond, because there would be an absurd situation there, as explained in the spouses Pacquiao case. But you can file for an injunctive writ in cases involving local government taxes. You must have the grounds therefore. So next we will discuss what? Section 222 and Section 223. But I want to discuss more extensively in Section 228. Okay? So that's about it for Section 218. I hope you remember this spouses Pacquiao. If you haven't read this already, then please read the case.